Hello, hello, and welcome. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome, Todd, Roland, and John. Hey, guys, welcome. Um, I literally just sat down, but I think we've got some fun stuff to look at tonight, so hopefully it's all good. Hope everyone had good travels back from Sound of Silence. I'm wearing my shirt for this year, which you can kind of see. And yeah, despite some changes in plans, we had a good trip. Excuse me. I met some friends for a couple drinks this afternoon, and one of the beers I had really set off my allergies. So, going to be a little froggy today, but I apologize for that. Um, John says he just got the link from DHL that his Tesla CCS adapter coming from South Korea is being shipped. So, let's start with that. John sent me the link. He's obviously getting the CCS adapter. I know Alex Sibila and I think Brandon Flash also has the CCS to Tesla adapter that they sell in Korea, don't sell here yet, but through this site you can actually order it. So let's take a walk over to the computer and take a look, and we'll just dive right into things today. And we got to switch cameras too. Hi. Glad to see you all. Um, John got it from. I will bring up that second screen and make this viewable to everyone. So, this is the site, and from actually, if you were to order it. But when you go to the site, this is what comes up. And it's all sorts of crazy stuff. So, like John was saying, he wasn't sure if he was in the right place or not, but apparently this is the right place. Um, and let's go back. Yeah. So this is the CCS combo adapter. It is just a pass-through adapter. There's no technology in it. It's just getting the wires to go to the right place and the juice to flow correctly. So um, apparently you can order the CHAdeMO adapter too. I don't know at this point why you'd do that, but John was saying that this is the price he paid, and the price, it does include shipping here. So I don't know that I'm necessarily ready to pull the trigger on one of these. Not because I don't think they work, but because um, I've just never really had a problem with using the supercharger network. Now, I can see down the road it being handy as more CCS is um, rolled out here, in Minnesota, in the Dakotas, whatever. Um, if that happens, might be a good fail safe to have in your back pocket. But at this point, I'm not rushing out to buy one, but I think it's cool and would be handy to have. Um, there's the box. That's what the unit looks like. The CCS end. And do they give us a shot of the other end? They don't. But the other end goes into a Tesla, as the picture illustrates there. So cool, but this is a good heads up from John that the website, when you first go to it, does seem a little sketchy. Like, what is this? But then, I just searched for Tesla CCS and this came right up. So we'll see. John and I have already talked about doing a video just to kind of showcase how it works, if it works, assuming it does, and everything over at the Electrify America station. So we'll bring that to you in the next few weeks. I'm not quite sure when that'll be, but sometime after it gets here. Apparently, there is a case that you can also buy that looks like it has a nice spot for your J1772 plug as well. So there might be some value to that. I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you did buy the case as well. So, yeah, we'll see what that's like in person once it gets here. So, pretty exciting. I had a few things on this computer. Oh, since we're kind of starting with random things, I'll bring up one of the other clips I had. And this is, trying to think of a good setup description for this. So this was on the way down to Worthington from Mankato. As we were driving, I noticed, hey, here's this relatively long train for, the big trains that cross the plains. This wasn't that long, but it's all of the oil cars. And this is one of those things that gets kind of forgotten, I think, when people talk about the emissions, when people say that EVs are just run on coal, coal obviously ships this way too on rails, but there are other options for electricity generation where pumped oil has to either be piped or tanked and then, loaded onto tanker, semi trucks to be brought into the local gas stations. And every gallon that we ever put into our vehicles goes through that whole process and then is burned forever. Whereas there are other ways of generating electricity, and it can be transmitted by wire. It can be, with solar and things, it can be done right at a source. Or, for the time being, there is still lots of energy is produced by burning coal, and obviously that has to be transferred. That has to be transported by rail as well. But once it's used at the plant, this oil has to go and get refined and all those steps, which are energy intensive. And when you bring coal somewhere, you dump it in the furnace, you burn it, you create energy, and that just goes out over wires. So there's, less transmission energy used. I don't know. I guess I don't know the exact weight of each of these tanker cars, and I don't know the exact weight of a car full of coal. So there's probably a difference there. But the overall point I'm making is liquid fuel has to be transferred physically, where electricity can be generated and transmitted by wire, and ultimately use less energy to do that whole process. So I was going to add this clip. I might have a short version of this clip in the video for Sunday about the road trip out to South Dakota, but I thought I kind of want to describe this, but that video is getting long, and it's not really the place to go into that longer, detailed discussion. So thought I'd bring it up here, have it loop nauseatingly a few times here for you, and then be done with that. But I just wanted to share it and share those thoughts. If you've driven across the plains before, you've seen trains like that are, triple, quadruple that length, and it's just all oil cars. And some of them are, like I said, some of them are also cool cars and things like that too. But um, I won't repeat myself again. Um, John says yes, he did buy the case, and his Tesla charges on Monticello nuclear power. Yeah, so there's other ways of generating energy um, that's not liquid. So just wanted to bring that up, throw a little extra tidbit on there. But most of the show I was thinking of talking about the Custer Sound of Silence rally, the trip, kind of how that went. If you guys have any other stories about that you want to chime in, I would be. I'd love to hear if you guys had some cool experiences. John, my shirt says Black Hills Sound of Silence Tesla Rally, Custer, South Dakota, and it's got a little Tesla logo with the little pin they give you. I don't have that name badge handy. And 8th annual. It's a lot of. They have a lot of branding. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but it's a fun event. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it, more than I will in like the videos coming up that are road trip. So let's see if we can go back over to the other camera. Yeah, let's go over to the other camera for a minute. Like I've said before, the longer I take with that transition, the bigger my house looks. It seems even more fancy, right? So my plan for the trip was to really be hardcore, up at sunrise filming and do lots of networking, talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of people at the different events. And that didn't exactly happen. Ended up having to take my daughter with me, which was fine. We had a fun time. It just completely changed the dynamic of, what I was originally going there for. Kind of a different vibe. I was going to try to do, the shortest supercharger stops. Really eke out every mile out of the battery. And then on the way home especially do like a speed run, see how fast I can really do this and how close to a gas trip I can make it. And that just didn't work out. It's one thing to travel with two people, but with a child, there's other limitations and things that come up. So it was fine. It was a good trip, but it was a little different than the plan. So I originally left early in the morning, right after I put her on the bus, and then got the call in St. Peter that I had to come and get her, and so I ended up adding about 2.5 hours to my day of driving, which you'll see in the video on Sunday that I start out so excited and so like gung-ho, and then like, I don't know what's happening, everything's up in the air, and but we got it figured out. So but I wanted to share a couple things about the trip that were interesting from I think there were a couple other families with kids there. Roland had Kwame there, and there's another family with a few kids. So it's not a super kid-friendly event, and I think it could be. There were things like they had instead of a selfie contest, they had like a car selfie contest. where you had to find things around town and take a picture. With slightly older kids, I think that could be kind of fun. Kind of a treasure hunt kind of deal. But hey, I just realized I'm talking at myself. Sorry. I don't know why that is doing that now. And I can't stop it. There we are. Sorry, minor distraction there. I could hear myself talking through the computer I'm monitoring things with. But being there with Joan and having her be not too interested in staying after the meals were over or even through the meals, it gave me a couple ideas, and I'd love to throw these out and get opinions. Punk Ops, I think that's Glenn. Hi, welcome, and we'll be taking a look at a couple of clips from him in a few minutes. But so because I had Joan, my original plan was to get up early and shoot some sunrise stuff, maybe even up at Devil's Tower. And then that kind of went by the side. But after Joan and I left dinner the first night, which would have been Friday, I was noticing that as blustery and bad as it had been throughout the day, sunset was actually going to be pretty nice. So we grabbed a Blizzard at Dairy Queen and drove back up onto the Needles Highway, which kind of cuts through Custer State Park. Really fantastic drive. I would say it's worth driving through South Dakota just to see that, even if you don't see the other sites. It's pretty cool. So, as Joan and I were driving up there again that night, or that evening, I was thinking, it's really too bad that on both nights we have the dinner and then social time right at some of the most beautiful times of day. And so I would wonder if people would be interested maybe next year, or pitching this to the organizers for upcoming years of there are some people who are hardcore early risers and might want to do like a sunrise drive, and you pick a picturesque part of the park you want to drive through and do that through sunrise, and do the photos and things like that. But then also potentially moving dinner slightly earlier, and then doing a convoy drive up for sunset, again for better lighting for photos and things. And I'll show you what I mean. I've got some photos I'll share in a minute here, because everyone likes looking at people's trip slideshows, right? So I was just thinking, like, what if dinner was slightly earlier, then we did like another hour-long drive, and then came back and settled in at a bar or restaurant setting for more relaxing hangout time, maybe at the Custer Beacon or something. Just I'm interested to see if other people would be interested in that, because like I said, I missed some opportunities. Definitely talking to a lot of you, with Joan there with me. But I also got this great gift of, as we were leaving, I got to see this great light and things. So worth exploring for next year to see if we want to do something like that. Separate the evening activities out to get the best photo opportunities. John says, did I see any buffalo on the way up? We saw some buffalo in Custer State Park, a couple, and then we drove down to Wind Cave National Park, and there were quite a few there. So again, when I show some photos here, um, there will be buffalo. Roland says our FSD on the Needles Highway was great. Shout out for taking us. Yeah, it worked pretty well in most places. Unfortunately, baby Kwame got sick in the back seat from all the twists and turns. If you get car sick, um, the Needles Highway, the Wildlife Loop, Wind Cave National Park are all places that you're going to need some Dramamine or maybe stay in town and sit at the pool or something. Yeah, it was fun to do a little convoy though. Glenn says he saw some in the wildlife loop, but only two up close. Hey Tom, welcome. Thanks for joining. Glad you're still awake. So let's head back over. Since Glenn's here, we'll take a look at a couple videos that he shot with his 360 camera, and I wanted to throw those in here to share. And so now I'll do this massive trek to the other part of the office. So excuse me while I move in my palatial estate here. Here I am. So let's take a look at Glenn's clips here. Oh, where am I hiding? And I was muted too, so that's fun. So I have these. I should roll one into each other. Yep. Uh, Sorry, I was just muted for that whole clip again. This is my first time live streaming. Why would I know what to do? But thanks, Glenn. These look pretty good and cool to see the whole setup. And crazy horse in the background there. And the boom that they took the photo for the thumbnail is up there. Last year, a lot of people, it was in a different location, and a lot of people brought drones. And so I brought my drone, but just couldn't handle managing Joan and responsibly flying a drone. And I'm not sure if the folks at Crazy Horse would have been crazy about having just some random guy flying a drone around. So it was kind of a maybe next year kind of thing. John's looking for antennas from the ham radio folks. Apparently there aren't. But yeah, it was just, kind of cool, fun to all be in one place at one time, with the cars, hanging out. And I'm going to. So thanks, Glenn, for sharing those. I think they turned out really nice, so I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing those. And here we'll go to, I don't know if you can see me here, but Yeah, John says ham radios and Teslas are rare, which is kind of strange because you'd think, technology, um, people who are into ham radios are into technology, but maybe not the latest technology. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the crossover is there. Um, so I'm just going to run through some photos here if you wanted to see Buffalo from the trip and things there. The um, Some of these photos are going to make it into the videos, but not all of them will. Um, Glenn, I think you did a great job. Editing 360 can be a little dizzying, but I thought you captured some good stuff there. So thank you. So here's Joan at Sylvan Lake. You can see, well, it's kind of hard to tell, but by her hair a little bit that it was very windy. It's kind of blowing all over the place. And it was generally a beautiful day, but uh, cold and windy. This is a place I was able to get her out of the wind. And then, like I was saying, most of the day, people are out doing the drives and stuff, and it's beautiful. The rock formations are great. It was kind of overcast here on, I think this was Friday. Um, but still, you can get nice photos. Um, that'll be a thumbnail for something. There's Todd and Lee, and there's Todd and Lee less skewed. Um, and then just at the visitor center, I was taking pictures of some of the different plates. This one that's a Minnesota. Colorado, that's a Minnesota. North Dakota, Plaid, and then some folks, some familiar faces there from the events. Joan hanging out on the landing. That was more for me because I thought it was hilarious that she was enjoying herself up there. Um, yeah, John, some of these rocks are just staggering that they're still standing. Um, so, again, more familiar faces. Joan just kicking back at the end of the table. And some ambience. Dave's telling the story of Elon's family getting stranded in Custer. I won't spoil it, but if you've heard it, you've heard it. It's a good story. But I think it may have even grown a little bit since last year. But cool there. So this was right after that first night's dinner, um, when everybody was kind of going over to the after party. We had to get out of there for behavior issues. Um, but it gave us the opportunity to go back up to Needles and get some of these shots, which I think are pretty nice and dramatic sunset time. So I was not happy that I had to leave the main event, but then by the time I got up there, I felt like everybody, like sitting in a closed room, was missing out on some of this. So this is a panorama I tried to take, and it overall looks nice, but it didn't really focus terribly well on any specific thing. So it's kind of a botched photography job there, but that's just an excuse to learn more. And when it's shrunk to this size, it looks pretty good. It kind of has a Mordor vibe. And then, yeah, just the pink clouds. I think one of these is this might be the same shot, just kind of recut and brightened up. But yeah, beautiful night, and the air had kind of calmed down, so it wasn't too windy. So that was nice. Then the next morning we saw some deer, mule deer, with their big crazy ears. And the first buffalo we saw, this was in Custer State Park, as we started the wildlife loop. And there's a big guy sitting there. And there was the lone pronghorn we saw on the whole trip, which was weird. Usually you see them in groups, but this guy was just having his own lunch. I don't know, maybe it's like a raccoon, where if it's out alone, it's got rabies or something. I've never heard of a rabid antelope, but who knows? So this handsome guy was marching along. I think this was as we were getting into Wind Cave National Park. Wasn't too busy there. I didn't feel like the restaurants or the parks were very busy yet, Jeff. Hi, by the way. Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, I always struggle when I'm taking video, like to stop and take photos. And then I'll get home and think, oh, didn't I take any video of that? And I have a bunch of stills. So, yeah, it's tough to remember to switch back and forth when you're looking for getting both. This is, we had a little snow blow through. We had an occasional flurries. And so this guy isn't covered in bugs or dandruff. He's just through a bit of snow. More buffalo. It's kind of a nice shot. And then this guy was pretty close to the road. But I used to have a nice long lens, and I sold it for a better camera. But now that I have the better camera, I wish I had that good lens again for close-ups. And then here I was kind of shooting for a thumbnail, seeing if I could get them, but the lighting wasn't great. So here we found a pull-off to, I think it's Mount Coolidge, and this is a fire tower observation platform that I think is a little over 6,000 feet. It's the highest peak in the Badlands, I think. And the drive up there was crazy. I've got GoPro footage of it that will be in probably not this week's video, but the next one, when I kind of go over, the different stuff of the event. But yeah, Joan was a little surly because I wasn't singing to her as much on the top of she liked looking over the edges and stuff. But apparently with these little viewfinders, you can see Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse. I didn't do it. I didn't have any change, but as we were leaving, another handful of people came up and they were like, oh, cool, you can see this or you can see that. So bring some quarters if you go up here. But don't go up with a trailer or a wide vehicle or anything you don't want to have gravel or you don't want to take on gravel. So this was a panorama looking, I think, north. So somewhere in here is, I think this is Needles Highway. These spires here, I got a little closer shot a little bit later. But I think Rushmore and Crazy Horse are out here somewhere. And then, yeah, you can see a little bit closer that this is kind of like the Needles Highway area. And then the other side, wanted to get one shot with the car in there. But yeah, just the distance is staggering. And this is another panorama, so as you see, some of these wires don't quite line up right, but I think it got most of the earth correct. I meant to Photoshop that out beforehand, but yeah, and you can see the car down there for scale. This is very high up. And yeah, apparently you can see into the Badlands on a clear day, but there were clouds all facing that way. So more clouds from that vantage point. Oh, here's where I was kind of focusing toward the Needles Highway area. And then that is the tower. Unfortunately, you can't go up to this top, like, fire observation area, but you can go up to this level. And I just thought it was pretty cool. A fun drive, but very vertical. And here's close-up of Crazy Horse, or relative close-up of Crazy Horse. And Joan at the gathering where we all got the picture that ended up as the thumbnail. Probably back here Glenn is somewhere doing more 360 work. Let's see. This is just the cars as we were taking pictures. And then again, that evening, Joan and I went up to Sylvan Lake, down Needles Highway. I shot more video and stuff here this night, I think, than photos. This is a nice panorama of Sylvan Lake. And just some of the boulders and stuff there are just so cool. And then, yeah, just a slightly different exposure on that photo. And that's it for photos. Yes, Crazy Horse is still being worked on. Let's see if we can. I'm trying to think. I showed Glenn's clips. Oh, there's one other surprise thing I wanted to share. So, definitely if you can get out there, and yeah, it wasn't too busy. I didn't think it was busy, Jeff. Needles and Iron Mountain will be a 30-minute stop and go wait to get to the main sections behind campers. Either way, yeah, I believe that it can back up. I noticed a lot of people didn't practice good tunnel etiquette, where when one person would go, 4 cars would come through instead of one, then the other, and then if you're going out there, take turns in the tunnels. Definitely don't take campers up into those areas, like RVs and things like that. They will not fit in those tunnels. Glenn, thanks for the super sticker. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Pair character lifting some weight, saying keep it up. Let's add that, but it doesn't show the character. I think it does on the computer I monitor this with. I can see the pair pumping iron, but it's hilarious that the software I'm using describes it. That's so good. But thank you. Let's see. Yeah, so I imagine in the summer it gets pretty rough. On Saturday, there was a group doing like bike tours, and then another group climbing right by the entrance to one of the tunnels. And it was a lot of pedestrians, a lot of cars. I was lined up to go through the tunnel, and someone thought I was parked, so went in front of me. And so, it can be, kind of a mess up there. But it's fun, and like I said, it's beautiful, especially in the Tesla or if you have another vehicle with a glass roof. Um, this is one of the first times. I guess the Orlando trip was kind of like this, but there wasn't so much to see vertically. Um, that Joan really paid attention when we were in the mountains, or I said look up or look out. Um, and I think part of that was because through the ceiling from the back seat, she could see these huge overhangs of these spires of rock going over the car, and it's just crazy. Like the thought of one of them falling is just like um, terrifying, and also like awesome amount of force um, is just incredible. Um, but very cool. Cool to drive through with a car with a glass roof. So um, yeah, like Glenn said, it was hardly many cars on the Iron Mountain Road, but it was 37 to 42 degrees, snowing and wet, and super windy. Um, I didn't do any hikes really. We tried to hike around Sylvan Lake, but it was so windy that it was just like Joan was in winter gear and frozen, and we both got both back to the hotel and had red faces from windburn. So didn't do any hikes really. I wanted to on Sunday. The weather was super nice. It was high 40s, low 50s, I think, and no wind. And the adventure part of me was like, screw it, we're going to stay another day and we're going to get all these hikes in and do it all upright, go see the Badlands, and then I thought, she's either going to miss school on Monday or we're not going to get back till like 3 in the morning and she's going to be miserable once we actually get to the drive. So I put my responsible dad hat on and decided to just drive home, and we'll just have to go out there again sometime as a whole family. Um, so both mom and I can take pictures. Um, John, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. A rainbow clapperboard with the words behind the scenes. Yes, it is. That is hilarious. I got to show you guys these descriptions. They're fantastic. So thank you very much. Um, Glenn says, I saw the bike tour ending at the bottom of Iron Mountain. They were loading all the bikes on a trailer. Yeah, I think they drive them all up to the top, the first tunnel, like the Needle's Eye Tunnel, I think it was. And then they all drive down, which I suppose is considerably safer. But I just like was picturing on a bike getting up too much speed and there's no way to stop, and there's some significant drops there. Uh, John says now I have to check out Stonehenge. I've been to Stonehenge. Um, I can't remember if it was, I think just once, but I went there in college and it was pretty cool. Um, you can't drive your car right up to Stonehenge though, yet. Maybe you can now. Uh, uh, yeah, the hikes were a little rough. It was unfortunate because it is so beautiful. Everything's really starting to turn green and nice, and um, even some of these evening times we went up there and it wasn't so bad. The wind had kind of calmed down, but by that point it was late and getting colder. Um, So I'd love to go back and do more hiking last year, but this was a huge plus over last year because last year was, um, I'll put this back up because it's prettier than me. Um, Last year was so foggy that we were at this lake, and from the bank we're standing on, you could hardly see the first rock. And then you'd kind of walk through the mist on this trail, and it would just appear out of nowhere. And that was really cool. But you, like on the Needles Highway, you just saw these ghosts of spires around you, and then if you were kind of above them but close enough, you could see down and see some of them. But this year was definitely better from a viewing standpoint, just maybe not as much from a hiking standpoint. Um, so I wanted to share one other thing with you, and that was yes, the new supercharger that's being built in Bloomington, not too far from my house. So I'll probably use it once to try it out and then never use it again. But I did drive by there today, and nope, that's the wrong one. Here we are. I'll get rid of. And I was on mute again, and yeah, so this is in Bloomington, Minnesota, just off of 494. I was expecting with the rain that people wouldn't be working there, so I was going to try to take better video, but everybody was right there. That guy was waving, and just decided to do one pass and move along. But I did slow it down to 50%, so if you want to take a closer look at the cabinets in their place, and sorry it's swimming around a little bit. I just had this on my shoulder as I was driving. And they're working, but the pedestal or the curb for where the pedestals will be has been poured now. That wasn't there last week, and all the wiring plumbing seems to be set up, or close to ready. And then these guys are doing additional cabling. I'm not quite sure what they're running over there for this use, but cool to see that they're working rain or shine. And I would guess maybe we've got a couple weeks before this is ready. They do seem to be moving pretty fast. It seems like with the gray pipes there that they've kind of streamlined how the plumbing for these works, the plumbing for the wires. So that's encouraging. And yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple weeks that these will be ready to go. This was in Bloomington, just south of 494. I think maybe Pennsylvania Avenue and 494 is where this is. It's kind of a tough spot to get in and out of. Like, this parking lot is a little gnarly. But, it's not too far from where 494 meets 35W. So it's definitely a high traffic area. And it's not too far from the airport. So I would say 10 or 15 miles from the airport. So no, it can't even be that much. Maybe 10 miles from the airport. So cool that that will be up and running. And that guy gets to wave at us one more time. And rather than be nauseous, let's head back over to the other camera. It's so fancy. So if anybody else went to Custer and had any thoughts they want to share, I forgot the... Here we are. High production value. This is what happens when it's one person running everything. I'd love to hear if anybody has any other thoughts from their trip. The big difference I noticed was obviously, adding a few hours to my trip meant an extra supercharging stop and being a couple hours behind the group. So that changed cost-wise too, but also on the way out there, the wind was so bad coming toward us that we had to stop at, usually going out there you can skip every other supercharger. And in this case, we had to hit them all. We probably, again, had I been traveling alone, I would have taken more risks than traveling with Joan, but we chose to stop at every one of them, let's say that, except for Rapid City, because we didn't need to do that. But our cost out there was $105.60. So supercharging costs do seem to be going up. And then the drive back only cost $71.85. So maybe that wouldn't be, well, I was going to say that might account for the difference in the extra stop. Having to make that extra stop by backtracking. But I don't think we had a charge that was, basically $35. So a combination of, a bunch of quick stops. It'll be interesting to see when I break that all down. I still haven't got through all the data stuff, but all those shorter stops to keep a high state of charge for insurance purposes on the way there, was expensive. And then being able to travel faster, we could have saved even more time and money on the way home. We had a couple times where my daughter's still in diapers, and so, you're just about to get back in the car and unplug, and then you have to stop at what you're doing and take care of that situation. And that's not a 20-second operation, so adds another 5 minutes onto your charge that you wouldn't necessarily have needed. And I had planned to arrive home with like 5% or less, because obviously I know once I'm here I can charge. I have a really good, I go down to southern Minnesota frequently, so I have a really good sense of how much we would need from St. Peter to get home. And another, just kind of oddball situation, we ended up overcharging there and got home with 20%. So it's like, I left so much on the, so much time and money charging on the table. That is unfortunate as far as like a speed run is concerned, but that's the reality of the matter. John says Xcel Energy can run a high voltage cable without even tearing up the parking lot and string it under the parking lot like a gopher. Yeah, I think that's what that second truck was doing. So it'll be interesting to see how that all, once it's all wrapped up and prettied up, how that is. Jeff says, I was at a track event at Brainerd International Raceway Friday, May 13th, and a buddy had a Model 3 that we charged several times. Supercharging was 0.4 plus instead of... I don't have any insights into the rates other than, like everything, they're going up. I think they're getting more... I can't remember where I heard this, but my understanding was that in the earlier days, Tesla was eating more of the demand charges. So you're asking for a lot of power during high demand times, and Tesla was having to eat that, and I think they're passing that on more to us, which is unfortunate, but it's got to be paid for. I don't think, at least on Tesla's end, that they're trying to make supercharging a big profit center. But I'm not sure. It seems more expensive in Minnesota than in other places, and I haven't really dug into that. I thought we were all billing the same way now. I thought that was a regulation that like all the states were having to bill by kilowatt hour rather than time. But maybe that hasn't been enacted yet, or I don't know. I'm a little confused on that. Yes, we added 2 hours versus gas. Man, higher speed limit means more wind resistance. Yeah, I was driving a few sections with basically an air brake out, and I didn't realize that. That'll be in Sunday's video explaining that. But my efficiency at one point was 549 watt hours per mile. I was driving 80 miles an hour against a headwind, and that's going to climb up there. And uphill the whole way west, yeah, that's definitely true. You're on a slow grade all the way up. But it's nice on the way back. Aviator 17, other than looking on the vehicle screen, is there a place to find the supercharger costs? If you go to findus.tesla, they have the supercharger maps, and I think if you click on the dots, it brings up the station info. I'm not sure if the cost is on there yet. We can take a look here in a second. What's the average cost, supercharging cost now? I don't have that. I'm going to work on that for the wrap-up video of this series. It's probably going to be just for a length, so this video isn't massive, and I can actually get it out on time. It'll be our drive out there, then our Custer experience, including all the drives and stuff, and that'll be a lot of scenery and stuff, and then the drive back, and then conclusions. And so in that one, I'll kind of break up like what's the cost per percentage, and there might be a couple ways to do that. So I want to work on that problem, but haven't had time to yet. Glenn says a better route planner was listing Minnesota as 28 cents when planning something for this weekend. I think a better route planner is behind on updating what the costs are, because it's definitely going to be more than 28 cents per kilowatt hour. Tesla opened up superchargers in the UK to non-Teslas. I didn't see that, but that's cool. That will help a lot of UK drivers. The demand charges make sense. I'm not positive that's it, but I feel like I've heard that Um, yeah, and varying rates throughout the day and everything. And yeah, it's kind of a mess. I know they want to put solar and battery storage with some of the supercharger installs. Um, so hopefully that would, knock the prices of those down a little bit. Um, we'll just have to see how that goes. Let's see. I did want to. Let's take a look and see if we can find the accurate pricing on Tesla's website, if that exists. And we're switching over to the other camera. Hi, good to see you. So let's take a look at second screen. We still got that nice sunset cooking there. But let's close those. Bring up Tesla's website. So this is Find Us. It's tesla.com/find us, but if you put in findus.tesla, we're going to turn off this stuff. And let's go to Minnesota, because that's where we are. Well, if you want to see where the New Bloomington supercharger is, it says it's right here, but it's really right here. So if we click on one of these guys, it tells us the power and does not say pricing. Whoa. Yeah, so if you want to find Tesla stores in Luxembourg, you can find them here. Yeah, so unfortunately, this just tells you power level and what's around, and doesn't give you the pricing info. I was hoping they would add that, but I guess they have not. Apparently there's going to be a supercharger here too, in Vadnais Heights. I don't know if they've started building that one yet. So sorry, not too helpful there. So probably, yeah, the car is probably the best place to look for that, unfortunately. Glenn says it's 41 cents right now. So, yeah, that's not as in Minnesota, yeah. So not as cheap as I'm sure we'd all like it, but I think my total trip was, I did do some of this big math already. I'm going to switch back to our other shot here. We'll go. Sorry about that. So yeah, the total for the whole trip, including what I charged in Custer, for sightseeing, was $201.36 for 1,587 miles. I will have graphics on all this in the videos, but right now it's just on a legal pad. So that's similar to about a 30 mile per gallon car and $4 gas. So, that brings up another question of, a lot of people, more people are starting to travel as the weather's getting nicer, and people were asking how much does it cost to charge. And I was saying our average on the Orlando trip was $11.66 per stop. Um, and, that wasn't so bad. This seems like it's gotten a little more expensive. And, so are we now to a point where basically it's the same as taking a gas trip? And then what's the benefit of owning an EV? Um, and then that benefit still comes if you can charge cheap overnight in your garage, or find free level 2 charging. You get those benefits, but um, maybe the road trip benefit is starting to go away a little bit, which is unfortunate, but um, you know, uh, electricity isn't free, and if there are demand rates and things. Um, but I know, like for the holiday weekend, Tesla has opened up some superchargers that are free at like off-peak times or early morning times or things like that. So if you're in those areas of the country, um, I think there's a route through in Texas, in California, and Florida. There might be one in the Northeast too, but I don't quite remember. Um, no benefit from Minnesota or the Midwest, but I'm sure that'll come eventually. Um, yeah, so it was interesting talking to some people and talking about the cost and inconvenience of having to stop and charge. One person was saying that, oh, I could just never do that. It sounds so annoying. And then when we got to talking to them, it was like, well, then the guy was like, well, we have to stop all the time for our dogs anyway. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, and you're also driving this huge RV, which obviously there's no EV RV yet. Um, but, you're making that choice to drive that vehicle, which means when you stop, you have to do the electrical hookup. You got to do the sewer hookup, the water hookup, all that stuff. You're choosing every day to have to do those things. So you kind of choose your inconvenience, what you're willing to sacrifice. But, I don't think I impressed it well enough to them. But, I wanted to make the point of, yeah, it's slightly more inconvenient on a road trip. Traveling with Joan, it's not, I'd be stopping for that long anyway. Um, but, even if it's inconvenient in some of those times, your day to day, my home charging setup is so convenient that, like, I never go to the gas station. I never have to stop or make that plan when I'm out and about. So, the more people learn, the more people will understand, the trade offs of, convenience. And, for a while, gas cars are still going to be, the thing that works for some people. Gas or diesel trucks are still going to be the thing that works for some people. Um, just on, I think, Facebook the other day, somebody asked me about, or maybe it was in the YouTube comments, about going up to International Falls, which is very far north in the central Minnesota. And they don't want to cross there's a J1772 plug in Canada, but they don't want to cross the border. And so that means they would have to plug in at a 120, just regular standard home outlet. And you'd only gain like 30, maybe 40 miles overnight, depending on how long you're staying. And, they were asking, well, do you think I can do it in my Model 3? And, really that's a place, until there's better charging or you want to cross the border, or, that's a place you might just have to rent a car to get to. it's still pretty far out there for EV infrastructure. But hopefully that will improve over time. But occasionally, if you have to rent a car, or like if I'm doing a home remodeling project where I need some really big stuff, I will rent the truck from Menards for a couple hours, do that, take it back, pick up my Model Y, and do all the other stuff that can fit in there. So you just make adjustments to what you need to do. So that is the bulk of what I wanted to talk about tonight. If anybody else has another topic or something you want to discuss, feel free to add that in the chat. This weekend, like I said, will be the drive out to South Dakota, and kind of the multiple times of changing plans as we went out there. So I hope you find that interesting. John says, why would you not want to cross the border unless you don't have a passport? Maybe they don't have a passport. I don't know. Maybe they're on the run from the Canadian Mounties. Who knows? I'm not sure. Excuse me a second. Back. It's a magic trick. Yeah, I don't know what their reasoning was, John. But, the other thing I wanted to mention is, I appreciate everybody joining the live streams, and that's awesome. I enjoy doing them. But I am going to change the cadence of the live streams, and I think I'm going to switch to do them only once a month. Hopefully, like tonight we had a lot of diversions. It wasn't just me talking. There were other things to look at. So hopefully that can hopefully that can lead to better quality live streams where I have more to share, more prepared things, and will give me a little more time to work on the weekly videos and get some good content for you all for that. So kind of step up the game in production value and stuff like that as I'm making the videos for the Sunday releases. And then, stick to like live stream. I'm thinking the last Wednesday of every month. So I think next month would be the 29th, and do that. Now I'm still going to work on trying to get some interviews with some people. Like I said, I've done the Living Electric podcast with Alex and Brandon, and I'd love to have them, interview them on this channel. That would probably be something I would release on a Wednesday night. So there might be some releases on Wednesday nights of interviews and things, but like I said, probably paring down the live streams to just once a month for now, at least over the summer. I know everybody is, the days are getting longer and everybody's got stuff to do, and so I'm going to try that out. Let me know your thoughts on that. If you want to see a different cadence or different something, or not Wednesdays anymore, I'd love to hear the feedback on that. So let me know. But I think, like I said, this is going to be the last one for now, and then we'll pick it up at the end of June, July, August. I was originally thinking the first weekend of the month, but then we've got just a lot of the holidays end up early in the month and other things. So yeah, be happy to hear any insight into that kind of thing. Um, Opinion on using on-off peak billing versus standard billing with the electric provider. Does AC use in summer negate going on or off peak billing? With our setup through our electric provider, Dakota Electric, they had us install a separate meter, and you can either have that be completely turned off other than the off-peak times, and then you get a slightly better rate, or you can have time of use, which is what we have. You can have time of use, which is what we have, and so we have a moderate rate during the like morning, early afternoon, late afternoon, and evening. It's very expensive, and then gets cheap again overnight. So we mostly charge overnight, and during those off-peak times, and just have the other time as available as a safety valve if we need it. But as far as running your AC, potentially your AC isn't going to be working as hard overnight. So I would think off-peak would still be better for the grid. I don't know if that answered your question. Hopefully it did. Glenn's talking about the border stuff with the. Does anyone have a spreadsheet detailing out the summer-winter costs with AC and vehicle charging? That is a good question. That might be a good question for one of the Facebook groups. I know a couple people who who are into spreadsheets enough that might know that kind of information. If you're not in one of those kind of groups, then I can certainly ask in mine and see if anyone has any insight. Insight. It's a lot of this stuff is stuff you might be able to just call up your electric provider and ask them a couple questions, or hunt around on the website. I know this Tuesday, unfortunately I missed it. I completely blanked it out. My electric company had an event down at Buck Hill, a little ski slope here in Burnsville, and completely blanked that it happened. I would have loved to have run down there and talked to people, but I just saw their Facebook post about it today, and so missed that. But that's an interesting question of summertime, wintertime costs. With running AC and charging the vehicle, but a lot of times charging overnight is the perception out there is every night you got to charge from 0 to 100. And although you can do that with level 2 charger in your garage, most of the time, I'm not driving too much, and so I might have to put 20% back in my battery, and that's really not a huge power draw over if you spread it over the course of several hours. It's maybe more than like what you would do with a 120 outlet or something, but not much more. So that's another question of how, like with the Tesla, I just schedule it to be done by 8:30. It's ready to roll at my desired 80% or whatever. And I guess I've never paid attention to when does that turn on and how heavy does that charge. I'm guessing it doesn't go, at max power for, just that last 30 minutes to fill me up. I'm guessing it stays at a lower power outlet or output for a slightly longer time because it's in no rush. And charging the battery slower is better over time. So I would think the battery management system would handle some of that. But it's interesting. I don't know, the specifics of that. Yeah, I'm thinking there will be more power used by air conditioner than vehicle charging. And if so, then it would be better to stay on standard plan. Yeah, I know. It depends kind of on how your wiring is and stuff too. It might be better, but I know the way it seems to me, I think my electric company would let you do that, but I've gotten the vibe from the folks who have XL Energy that you pretty much have to go through their EV plan. They won't let you just put in like a NEMA 1450 for charging on your standard plan. I'm not sure if that's true, but maybe John or somebody can answer that. But I was under the impression that XL was a little more, no, you have to do our thing our way with our program. You can't just put in a plug and expect to pay your normal rate. I don't know why that would be the case, but that's the vibe I've gotten. John says Excel's got a plan 3 cents a kilowatt after midnight, and you rent the wall charger. Oh yeah, the cost savings. Yeah, I think it would all depend on your electric provider. The average central air conditioner draws 30 amps. The test charger draws 40 amps. Most homes are wired for 100 amps, so you're okay. Oh, okay. Tyler says XL doesn't care. You just don't get a better rate. Okay. Tyler put a 1450 on his previous home, and they didn't care. Okay. So that's good to know. So yeah, maybe there is a benefit to going through their program then. John says I have 150 amp service. I have air conditioner running, dryer running, and Tesla charging, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like it would all work, but I don't know. Yeah, I would think for cost savings, then you'd want to go through their program. Tyler says I had to get their licensed electrician to install my charge point for the program at a later date, though. Okay. Yeah, and I think you have to use their high power wall connector. I don't know that you can. I don't know if they'd install a Tesla wall connector. John, did you have yours installed through the Excel program, or is that on? You did that on your own dime, and then Excel gave you the other charger that's in your garage. Tyler's trying to cause a bolt fire, I guess. um, he's pushing the limits on his service, but I think he survived, so that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, you can find out the best cost savings program for you with Excel. Um, Unfortunately, that's just not my forte of knowledge, uh, and I'm not on the Excel. I'm not in their grid. I'm on Dakota Electric, so it's a kind of different how they do things. Taylor says, I imagine you could do the wall connector on their separate meter plan, but not sure. John says they put in a second meter. It costs $2,000. Use the charge point. They put in a second meter. It costs $2,000. Use the charge point charger from Excel Energy. You rent the charger. You connect through the Wi-Fi. Yeah, so yeah, they've got their own kind of way of doing things that I don't really have much to add other than what's in the chat there. Um, but with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, I really appreciate everyone joining tonight, and to Glenn for sharing his clips, and John sharing his insights onto the crazy website for ordering the Tesla CCS adapter. That is a pretty goofy place, but you can find it. It is being shipped to John. We'll take a look at that when he gets that. And this will wrap up the live stream. I guess this will be the May live stream, the end of May live stream. And then, like I said, the plan is to come back at the end of June, do a live stream, have more stuff for you. And if I get any other interviews or things like that with some other folks, I will release those on a Wednesday night as well. So there will still be something here, hopefully occasionally. And then, like I said, at the end of the month, we'll do another live stream, an electric car hangout, and talk with you all again. But thank you for the super stickers, Glenn and John. I appreciate that. And good to see everyone I did see in Sound of Silence. If I didn't get a chance to visit with you, I apologize. Things were a little hectic, and I hope you will understand. So, yeah. But I was happy to see faces and see the people I did see at Sound of Silence. Hopefully next year we'll either go as a whole family again, or I'll do the trip solo and have more time to hang out, and maybe then the weather will all be better too. We can do some of those hikes and maybe some of those sunset drives. If we have a lot of coffee, maybe some of the sunrise drives as well. But that's going to do it for tonight. I left my little thing over there, my clicker. So much back and forth. But like I said, I do really appreciate everyone joining and talking, giving each other advice in the chat. That's great. One of the reasons I started this was to answer questions and have the other experts in the chat give their 2 cents as well, because I'm not an expert on a lot of things. But thanks again. Have a great night. I'll catch you in the next one. Right now, planning for June 29th, Wednesday night. And I'll let you know either through the community tab or posts on social media if there's anything else coming up between then. But thanks a lot. Have a great night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Good night. Thanks.